Hello, lovelies. This is 5 Minute Manifesting, and I'm your host, Lovey Brown. Thank you so much for listening. I'm thrilled that you're here. And today I want to talk about how you are feeling. So, I don't know how much I've talked about it, but I think I've tried to talk about it in like the double check episodes. And I'm really just reminded of how your feelings are a source of information about how your manifestations are going. But that doesn't mean that you need to deny your feelings or just pretend like they aren't there. So very often when we hear some manifesting advice like, try to stay in a good feeling place, think positive, really move yourself to like a better feeling place, like that sort of manifesting advice. Now, I think that advice is good. I think sometimes that advice is even like the best advice for your situation, depending on what's going on for you. However, it can be tricky to know how to do that, number one, and it can make people feel like they're not allowed to feel their feelings. And that's not the case, right? People are allowed to feel their feelings. And people are allowed to have the feelings that they have, right? Like, that's the way this makes me feel. This is how I'm feeling right now. But the trick is to really feel those feelings. Like, acknowledge them, feel them. And then put your focus on something else that probably does feel better to you. And what we often do is we have this feeling about a subject, something that happened. Let's just say a specific person. Let's do a really big emotional state one, like you find out your specific person is in a picture on social media with someone that you feel like they're dating. Now, maybe you don't really know that that's the case, but you've seen this picture and it's triggered some feelings inside of you, and now you have this big outsized emotional reaction. Now that emotional reaction is fine, right? But it's really based on the story that you're telling yourself. And that is fine. Like even that burst of emotion, that feeling that you have, that emotional reaction that you have, that is fine. The trick is what you do next, right? So you've had this feeling. Now, what we often are tempted to do is just to keep repeating that story to ourselves and add on some little other things too that make us feel even worse. So you've seen this picture, you've told yourself a story that your specific person is with somebody else, and maybe you're even adding on like, we're never going to get back together, we're never going to be together, I'm not lovable. You're adding on some other things that aren't really inherent in the truth of you just seeing that picture, right? And so you're staying there. You're staying in that feeling, and you're keeping that feeling alive by feeding it a story. Feeding it this story that you're telling yourself. Now, let's go back to that moment, the moment you see the picture and this burst of emotion happens. Like for me, that would probably happen inside of my chest. And you're in that moment that this happens, and you have some sort of reaction. Your emotions sort of light up in a negative way, in a way that you don't want. And here you are. So the only evidence you really have is a picture that you've seen on social media, and you don't really know what that picture means. Even if you do have a little bit of evidence that it means your specific person went on a date with someone else. People go on dates and don't go on a second date all the time. People go on multiple dates and don't go on, more dates after that all the time. People meet people all the time that they don't end up in a relationship with. People break up all the time. So even if that is true, even if there is some truth in that initial thought, doesn't mean it's going to be that way forever. Doesn't mean that you can't have your manifestation. And two, it means absolutely nothing about you specifically as a person. It doesn't mean that you're not lovable. It doesn't mean that you're not even loved by that person in that picture, right? It doesn't inherently mean that. That's just a story, a thought that you're choosing, and it's keeping those feelings alive. So your job as a manifester, as a deliberate creator, as someone who is choosing your future with your thoughts, with your focus, you have that burst of emotion. You're allowed to feel it. Okay, this is what I feel. This is why I feel it. And then pay attention to where you put your focus next. So you have some choices here. You can either attempt to come up with a story that around this that feels good to you, or you can just put your focus somewhere totally different, on your job, on your, your environment that you're living in, and making it nicer. Just whatever, something else that you're manifesting, another manifestation, your workout routine. You can literally put your focus on any other subject and just leave that subject with, this, I can have this feeling and I can still get my manifestation anyway. And then you turn your thoughts to something else. You get on a different subject. If you do want to stay on that subject, the specific person subject, then you're going to have to really walk through and what your story is. What are you telling yourself about this? And you get to decide that. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. With that, may you manifest exactly what you want. You can feel how you feel and still get your manifestation. And it's just a matter of training your focus and putting it where you want it to be. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you next time.